Taiwan and around the world. A goodwill forum between Taipei and Shanghai kicked off today, the first time the event has been held here in Taipei since the COVID-19 pandemic. Our reporter Chris Gorin has more from us from where the forum's being held. Chris, what can you tell us so far?
Well, as you said, this is the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic that this forum has been held in Taipei. And with official diplomatic relations between Taiwan and China remaining closed, this is one of the highest profile exchanges between the two sides that's still being held. Now, as a city-to-city exchange, present here are Taipei City Mayor Jiang Wan-an and Shanghai Vice Mayor Hua Yuan, along with about 90 other people from Shanghai who have come to this event. Now, in many ways, the events here today resemble the kind of city-to-city exchanges you might see anywhere in the world. There was an opening ceremony, there was some musical performances, and of course speeches. But of course the relationship between Taiwan and China is anything but normal. And during the speeches from the mayor and the vice mayor, you could see in small ways a little bit of that tension coming out.
两岸同胞啊，从来都是一家人，我们常来常往，越走越近，越走越亲。
我认为要多一点对话，少一点对峙；多一点和平的橄榄枝，少一点冲突的酸葡萄；多一点渔船灯火的点缀夕阳，少一点船舰飞机的喧嚣呼啸。
Now, you could see a little bit in the last part of the Taipei mayor's speech there that he is addressing, if gently, the issue of increased Chinese military activity around Taiwan. Now, China has been increasing its sea and air forces that patrol the areas around Taiwan in recent years. And it even ramped up its activity as recently as last week. But aside from that one comment, most of the comments from both speeches focused on increasing communications and dialogue between the two sides.
And what about on the policy side? Were there any new agreements or initiatives announced at today's forum?
Well, the two sides did sign a couple of MOUs on issues such as healthcare. The two city zoos may cooperate on some issues, for example. There was one not official policy pronouncement, but the Shanghai vice mayor did say that he would try to get Shanghai tour groups to come and visit Taiwan. Now, if he follows through on that, that would actually be a significant change, as at the moment, Chinese tour groups can only visit Taiwan's outlying islands like Jinmen and Matsu. After this event, the Shanghai delegation will visit a couple of locations in Taipei, including the newly built Taipei Dome. And later this afternoon and early evening, they will fly back to Shanghai.
Thanks for that update, Chris. That was Chris Gorin reporting from the Twin Cities Forum in Taipei. Ruling party lawmakers have demanded an investigation into a vote on a controversial recall bill, where opposition members physically barred them from participating.
本日会议议程均已处理完竣，现在散会。
A 3-minute committee vote on amendments that could make it harder to recall public officials, now under investigation. Members of the opposition Kuomintang quickly called together a meeting and advanced the measures from a barricaded room in Taiwan's legislature, keeping their opponents from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party out of the vote. Early in the morning, the KMT blocked the entrances with desks and chairs and even covered one door in plastic wrap.
强制要修法只会增加这个朝野政党之间的不信任与争议性，那可能对社会上的民意呢也不好交代。
Some DPP lawmakers questioned whether the vote was valid and demanded an investigation by the legislative speaker.
我们立法院这次开议从今年2月1号到现在，不是第一次，已经多次在委员会发生不同形态的冲突。
但连会议室都进不去，这是第一次。
针对今天这个事情，我想我要进行调查完毕之后，再跟大家做报告。听清楚，没有任何人可以。
那为什么要变？
But an investigation alone may not stop the Recall Act from moving forward. The bill will move on to the floor for further discussion, where the DPP will need to gain a few allies if they want to stop it. Kama Shri and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus. A Chinese national who the British government says was secretly working as a Chinese agent has denied spying for Beijing. Yang Tengbo was a close confidant of Prince Andrew, the younger brother of King Charles, and his position deep in the British establishment has posed big questions over the UK's relationship with Beijing. Rick Lowert reports.
A prince under pressure. Prince Andrew, brother of the British King, is facing mounting criticism over his close ties with this man, Yang Tengbo, a Chinese businessman who the UK government barred from the country for secretly working as a spy for Beijing, saying he posed a potential threat to national security, a position now validated by the country's courts.
I welcome the court's decision to uphold the Home Office's position on Yang's exclusion, and where individuals pose a threat, as you would expect, the UK government is absolutely committed to using the full range of powers available to disrupt them.
Yang was allegedly working for the Chinese Communist Party's United Front, a shadowy organisation seeking influence overseas, including pushing Beijing's claims of sovereignty over Taiwan. Yang denies he was a spy and says he has done nothing unlawful. Yet his presence at the centre of the British establishment, he attended Prince Andrew's birthday parties and was pictured with previous prime ministers, has highlighted the UK's vulnerability to China.
Yang Tengbo at age 6 was in fact not a lone wolf. He was one of some 40,000 members of the United Works Department, which the Intelligence Security Committee report last year said, and I quote, "and known to government, had penetrated every sector of the UK economy, spying, stealing intellectual property, influencing and shaping our institutions."
This diplomatic scandal and the security threat from Beijing it has highlighted is awkward timing for the UK leadership. With the country's economy flailing, the new Labour government is looking to boost ties and trade with China.
Of course, we are concerned about the challenge that China poses. Our approach, as you know, I had a meeting with the President just a few weeks ago now. Our approach is one of engagement, of cooperating where we need to cooperate, particularly, for example, on issues like climate change, to challenge where we must and where we should, particularly on issues like human rights.
China has already reacted angrily to the UK's treatment of Yang, calling the accusations groundless hype. Recent developments have put a strain on the relationship as it was moving into a new phase, and raised questions over the risks of getting closer to Beijing. Easton Chen and Rick Lowert for TaiwanPlus.
Top officials from the United Kingdom and Australia have held an annual meeting to boost ties over increasing global threats.
We are navigating the most complex strategic environment since the end of World War II. And the rules that protect our nations are under pressure, possibly more than ever before. So that's why we're working together to protect and uphold the rules.
The two countries affirmed their support for Ukraine over growing threats from Russia and North Korea and recommitted to a defense pact with the U.S. That pact was signed by U.S. President Joe Biden in 2023 and would provide a fleet of nuclear-powered submarines to Australia to counter China. But there are concerns over incoming U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's commitment to the agreement. Both countries see this pact as vital to counter China's growing influence in the region.
In the Indo-Pacific, we unsurprisingly focused a great deal of our discussions on the challenge of maintaining peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific, the challenge of China increasingly active, increasingly assertive in the region, and the vital importance of maintaining both deterrence and freedom of navigation.
The two countries also unveiled a series of new security initiatives and promised to boost economic cooperation. The U.S. federal government has responded to thousands of reports of drones over the country's east coast, saying the objects pose no threat. Americans have taken to social media over the past few weeks, reporting more than 5,000 drone sightings. Many shared videos showing lights moving across the sky. Some lawmakers have demanded President Joe Biden's administration explain the phenomenon. Local, state, and federal authorities say they are investigating the reports and that most of the sightings were of manned aircraft. At least 20 people are confirmed dead after Cyclone Chido hit the French island of Mayotte, but the final death toll could be much, much higher. Chido brought winds of over 220 kilometers per hour to the overseas territory on Saturday. Entire neighborhoods and the power grid have been destroyed, and 2/3 of the African island remains unreachable. Survivors are describing the aftermath as catastrophic and apocalyptic, with hundreds or even thousands of people feared dead. South Korea's Constitutional Court has begun reviewing the impeachment of President Yoon over his failed attempt to impose martial law. The court has up to 6 months to decide whether to remove Yoon from office or reinstate him. Rosie Greninger reports.
This was the moment news broke that South Korean President Yoon had been impeached. 11 days after he imposed martial law, and protesters took to the streets calling for his resignation.
온 국민이 원하는데도 내려오지 않고 있습니다. 빠른 결정, 국민을 위해서.
야, 이렇게 막상 되니 너무 기분이 좋고 눈물이 납니다. 우리 국민은 위대합니다. 우리는 해냈습니다. 앞으로도 계속 해낼 거고요.
Last week, the ruling party had abstained from an impeachment vote, ensuring its defeat. But as the president remained defiant, members of his own People Power Party tipped the balance in a second round of voting, and colleagues openly abandoned him.
국민의힘 당 대표직을 내려놓습니다. 최고위원들의 사퇴로 최고위가 붕괴되어 더 이상 당 대표로서의 정상적인 임무 수행이 불가능해졌습니다.
It's a major fall from grace for President Yoon, who ascended to power fighting corruption. His martial law imposition was short-lived, as opposition lawmakers broke through police lines and assembled in parliament to vote it down. Yoon said his declaration was an attempt to break the political deadlock in parliament, as opposition lawmakers blocked his party's legislation and political agenda. The conservative leader also cited North Korean threats, Pyongyang responding to the impeachment process.
결과 14일의 표결에서 탄핵안이 가결됨으로써 윤석열 괴뢰의 대통령 권한이 정지됐습니다.
The president has lost his powers and the prime minister has taken charge, looking to restore faith in a system that is now tarnished. And as investigators from the prosecutor's office seek answers over his failed martial law bid, Yoon has rebuffed requests. He's been given until the end of the week to appear for questioning or face the possibility of arrest. But the matter is not yet closed. It's now with the Constitutional Court, where Yoon can fight to remain in office.
제1차 변론 준비기일을 12월 27일 금요일 오후 2시로 지정한다.
The court has 180 days to decide to reinstate the president or uphold the impeachment based on the martial law's constitutionality.
우리 헌법에서는 비상경을 선포하려면 그 전시, 사변 또는 기타 이에 준하는 국가 비상사태가 발생했을 때라는데
Lawyers believe the Constitutional Court will move through the case quickly to allow the government to resume work. If the impeachment is upheld, it would trigger a 60-day countdown to new elections. Either way, for these people who have spent over a week protesting against their leader, these developments are a much-needed victory to restore faith in the country's democratic political system. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Before we go, we bring you your daily dose of cute with these images of more than 200 sea turtles released on a beach in Panama. I'm Tiffany Wong. Take care and see you next time.